Well, we've had recounts on the books for a long time, and historically, other than Jefferson County, until the 2008 election, 2007, 2008, other than Jefferson County, all of the counties had electronic voting systems. There was levers up until 2002 in a few counties, but for the most part, we had electronic voting systems, either the older types or the newer types. When you do a recount there's not really anything to recount. You can, in theory, on the newer machines, print out a ballot image of those systems and then go count it, but it's a computer-generated ballot that's generated from the computer where you voted. Now, about 3/4 of Kentucky's counties, and that's actually might even be a low number, now have the opportunity for voters to vote on paper, where they actually cast a ballot on paper, it's scanned in. At that point, it's tabulated, another image is created, so that way if the paper were lost, you have a digital image, and then you have that original paper ballot. So now if you're a candidate running for office and there's a close outcome, you might decide, well, I think I am going to try a recount, especially since it's a new system. I know both Kathy Flagg and Kevin Sell, and I know Kevin Sell really well. And he lost a close race. There were new voting systems, and so I think part of it was, in the same way that candidates used to always say, all right, well, I'll go ahead and request a recanvass. It's free. I feel like I owe it to myself and supporters just in case there were a math error, because that's essentially all that can be caught in a recanvass. Well, let's go back and we have these paper ballots and we can go back and hand recount it. And so what Kevin did, ultimately asked for, was a sampling of a recount. And the reason for that is the candidates have to pay for it themselves. The losing candidate must pay the cost. That's a deterrent. That's partially why we haven't had one in so long. And the other part was there wasn't much to recount. So why spend the money on an outcome that was almost certainly going to be the same as it was before? What I'm glad to see, at least in the situation in Campbell County, and I suspect will be the same in Boone County, is that these machines work very well. And we saw essentially the same outcome in Campbell. There was one vote that, my understanding was, there was like a stray mark that I think was awarded as a vote, but probably, it was one of those, and to give the benefit of the doubt, I think they gave the vote knowing it wasn't going to change the outcome and knowing that it was essentially over at that point. But if it were a race that were decided by one vote, you might have given more scrutiny to that vote. In other words, the count on election day was the same as the hand recount. That should give a lot of confidence to the voters of Kentucky that we have a system that you can do a recount, you can count it by hand, and it has the same count as the machine. That's reassuring. And so you can go back and do that. And we also put in some new regulations this year that requires more logic and accuracy testing in advance. Counties were supposed to be doing it, but the process was pretty unwieldy and if not impossible to comply with. And we worked with the counties in the interim. We didn't have elections last year to put those in place so that the machines would be tested and checked more thoroughly than before, which would reduce the likelihood that a count might not be accurate. So I feel pretty good about our system. Hopefully Boone County will come out the same way. From a procedural standpoint, I don't really, the outcome for the purposes as being Secretary of State, I don't really care, but it's, I want the vote on election day, the count to be election day, to be confirmed in the recount. But if it's not, the good thing is we have the ability to go back and check it now.